how can I feel better in this body? How can I make it perform better? And how can I make it last better so that I can be doing what I want when I'm 40, 60, 80?
You need blood supply to heal. You need blood supply to maintain active structures inside your knee, your shoulder.
I love Pilates. I love yoga, especially because it's like hidden fitness within stretching and activating
and it's really all about the core.
My knee sounds like if you're twisting a can.
You and I might need to talk after this.
Yeah. Welcome to the latest episode of The Future You, our new show about the new frontiers in health, longevity, and building stronger, longer lives. Hey there, I'm Rich Dorment, editorial director of Men's Health and Women's Health magazine, and my lower back is killing me. And I think at least 2 or 3 times a day that my body is falling apart, and it's all downhill from here. So the good news is, as usual, I'm wrong. There have never been more ways to protect our joints and ligaments, strengthen our muscles, and future-proof our stability, flexibility, and mobility for the long haul. Nobody knows this better than our 2 guests today. First up is Gus Kenworthy, certified dreamboat, an Olympic silver medalist who has subjected his body to all manner of trials and traumas in his trailblazing professional skiing career. And we've also got certified badass Ali Krieger, who endured broken bones and torn ACLs and MCLs on her groundbreaking journey to 2 World Cup titles with the U.S. women's national team, as well as a well-earned spot in the soccer's GOAT conversation. They're going to be sharing their stories of injury and recovery. And we'll have Dr. Michael J. Alaia, MD, sports medicine surgeon and professor of orthopedic surgery at NYU Langone Health, helping us make sense of everything that's happening in our body. So, Ali, we're going to start with you. You played professional soccer for 16 years?
18.
18? All right. 18 years. And before that, you played countless games in backyards and indoor turf fields and Big Ten college stadiums. And I want you to take me back to your first memory of hearing a pop or a crunch or a snap. And you're like, well, that just didn't sound or feel right. Do you remember that?
Yeah, probably my brother trying to tackle me.
While you were playing soccer?
Yeah, we would always go out in the yard. I would always make him do 1v1s because I just wanted to beat him at everything he was really good at. I was just so competitive from a very young age, and he kind of brought that out of me. Right? I loved him so much, and I wanted to hang out with him all the time that, he helped kind of guide me through, the activity phase and the sport phase. So I was really lucky that he, wanted this lifestyle as well and this active lifestyle. But then again, that competitiveness and that drive kind of led me to feeling these aches and pains throughout the years, right? Yeah. Because I found the love of football, and then I continued to play for however long I did. And throughout my time, it's inevitable that sport is a risk.
Yeah. So talk to me a little about in those early stages of, I guess when you're an amateur football player, what was your preparation like to prepare your body for the sport? Did you stretch a lot? Did you do a lot of pre-recovery? Like, what were you guys doing?
Not until I turned pro, and I'm sure Gus can kind of relate to this as well, because I don't think I had as many resources, I think, when I was younger to really, some coaches would be, especially my dad was my coach, so I'm not going to knock on him.
Right.
Because he was like,
touch your
you need to
toes
stretch, you need to, take a jog, you need to activate before you run out there. But, young girls, we love to chat before training, and you just you forget about the stretching part and you just hang out. And so I think not until I turned pro was when I really focused on activating my body to really prepare for 90 minutes.
And what did that activation look like? Like, if you can just sort of take us through a typical pregame ritual.
Yeah, it was just like getting your, mobility in was huge. I was, just doing short sprints here and there, normal stretches, but it was always with a little bit of a jog, kind of a back and forth for 10 minutes, and then activation with the bands. I also think we did sometimes band work in the gym as well to get those muscles kind of activated before, you're going out to perform. And that was also before any training session. So that was a real focus. And then immediately after training, you would do, the stretches and the recovery process. And that would either be ice baths, that would be sauna, that would be massages, anything of that sort. We would roll out a lot using the rollers and make sure.
But this was when you were older, right? When you were in college, you were just you put your shit down and you went out on the field and you played 90 minutes.
Yeah, you could say
and
that.
somehow somehow you didn't get super injured.
I did get injured in college, but that was just from actually just a tackle,
right.
not necessarily for me not activating properly.
Right.
Yes.
So Gus, talk to me about what it was like for you growing up learning to freestyle ski. Do you remember the first time, that first crunch or pop or snap that you were like, oops?
I don't know, 11 or 12, I broke my tib fib, came up a little short on a jump and broke it. And all my friends skied up and I was like, I broke my leg. And they were like, no, you didn't. And I was like, no, I like definitely did. And they didn't believe me. And so my friends left me and like went and did a lap and they came back and patrol was there. And they were like, oh my God, Gus is like still
so
here.
Dramatic.
Yeah. And I remember going down in a toboggan, like with the ski patrol and then in an ambulance to the clinic. And I said to the nurse in the ambulance, I was like, I really hope it's broken because I'm going to be so embarrassed if it's like actually not.
All credibility.
But it was broken pretty bad. So
yeah. So when you were, because that was, youth elite sports, were they training and preparing your body for these types of sort of extreme moves and speeds? Like, what was your race prep like?
I'm very similar to Ali. Like there wasn't any. As like a club team, we would meet at the top of the chairlift just kind of for everyone to meet. And you would like swing your legs and like kind of get warm, but it was just like you were just gabbing.
Yeah.
And then you'd get broken off into your groups and you'd go skiing. And I'm the same way. I didn't, even kind of after I turned pro, because I started competing professionally and I had sponsors when I was 16 or 17. But it wasn't actually until I was like on the US team going to the Olympics that we had like strength and conditioning coach, someone focusing on like pre-skiing, pre-workout, warm-up, stretching, mobility, anything like that.
Did you feel the difference in your performance once you implemented and integrated those things into sort of your pre-race rituals?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Ali?
I don't think I would have played until 39 if I didn't have the sports science aspect of a resource of the game that was introduced exactly when Gus was expressing when you turn pro and with the national team, you have all of these amazing resources and accommodations provided to you. So not until then, did I also feel like, oh, wow, this is actually enhancing my performance. Yeah. Why haven't I been doing this all along?
Right. So one thing I want to pick up on that Gus said, and this isn't the exact same thing, but there's this idea of playing through pain, right? Like, and I'm going to be sexist and say I think it's a lot of guys, but I kind of feel like
I agree.
But I think this idea of like you can sort of walk it off, or it's all in your head, or don't be a baby. Is that something you've observed in your own sort of career and experience? But is it something that's changed over time in the 20 years that you've been doing this at a fairly high level?
Yeah, I think it's changed, but I think that's very true of myself, and I feel like it's like something you always just had to deal with when you were skiing. Like you could tap out, but you kind of wouldn't. I mean, even like I feel like there's been so much new research and understanding on concussions, but like even when I was younger, if I would hit my head, I would sometimes be like, oh, thankfully I just hit my head.
Right. Nobody cared.
Like, I didn't break like
nobody cared.
Yeah, if you broke a bone or something, you have to like go deal with it. But I was like, oh, I have a little concussion. Like I can ski still.
Right.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And like now those are the injuries that have been the worst ones for me. But yeah, there was always kind of like a feeling of playing through pain and like toughing it out and like that's kind of rewarded in terms of like camaraderie and respect and things like that, which is a little crazy. And I feel like now there's been much more emphasis on like mental health. And I think that like knowing your limits and actually not pushing your body all the time is also commands respect.
Yeah.
I think both are commendable. I think there's a time and place.
Yeah. What about you, Ali? Was that something that this idea of like toughing it out?
Yeah, of course, which was psychotic with the national team. Like I literally talked to some of my former teammates from the national team. Were like, what were we doing?
Right.
And why? What
was I trying to prove?
Yeah. And why are we putting our bodies through all of this pain just to, I don't know, play in a 90-minute game?
Yeah.
It's like, that means actually very little to like being in a World Cup tournament. Like why is everything placed on this match? Like what is this match? Like why is this so worth us putting our bodies through the absolute worst pain and potentially risking the rest of our season?
Yeah.
So yes, there were moments but you also felt like you needed to perform well in order to stay on the team and make money. And, then that ends up just trickling down to, okay, well, this is my livelihood. I need to keep a roof over my head. I need to feed I have a family, I need to play in order to keep my spot and keep earning money.
Yeah. And I think to Gus's point, like it's not necessarily black and white. Like we named this series The Future You because it's like, what's your relationship like with the future version of you? On the one hand, you want to protect your body. You want to like really like invest in yourself so you can do this for a long time. But at the same time, like your future you's got to eat too, right? So
right. And I didn't want to miss like a whole season. I'd rather miss maybe one game and be like, listen, I'm going to sit out because my hamstring's about to pop. But it's cool. Like we have plenty of depth. If someone else can perform, I can like take a moment and then be able to play the next 3 or 4 games.
So Dr. Alaia, we are surrounded by two, I mean, we're pretty good athletes, you and me, obviously, but I mean, they're next level.
I mean, I've seen you.
It's you know, not to brag, but I think I want to sort of take a step back and obviously the sort of everyday trauma, I guess you could say, like the impacts that they're doing to their body is probably not something that ordinary athletes or sort of ordinary people deal with. But what are some of the concerns that folks really need to start thinking about in their 20s as they're like, I want to be in this body for a while. How can I feel better in this body? How can I make it perform better? And how can I make it last better so that I can be doing what I want when I'm 40, 60, 80?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. And I think it's something that we could probably answer over like a 10-hour conversation.
Excellent. I'll give you like 3 minutes.
So I think the first thing to always keep in the back of your mind, which is what you said earlier, is that as we're getting older, we are doing just that. We're getting older, right? So there's a lot of tissues in our body that break down over time, regardless of what you're going to do for it, whether your meniscus, your rotator cuff. These areas don't get great blood supply, right? So you need blood supply to heal. You need blood supply to maintain active structures inside your knee, your shoulder, what have you. So you have to have that in the back of your mind, but at the same time, we never want to compromise a person's ability to play or do the sport that they love doing, sort of like what you said, playing through pain, et cetera. So, you know, we could take it back 1 or 2 steps and always think about the concept of inflammation in our bodies. Now, there's a huge focus on what we're eating, how we're sleeping, what we're putting into our bodies, whether it be alcohol, marijuana, et cetera. All those things can affect your overall inflammation over time.
And that's before you even step onto a field or click into your skis.
Exactly right. Even before you step onto the field, you can be cognizant of these things, right? Like all these micro traumas are not just happening through what we're doing on the pitch or on the field or on the slope, but also what we're putting into our bodies and how we're exerting ourselves off the pitch as well. Your stretches, your muscle strengthening. So as we get older, that's just what happens. We get older. Women go through menopause. They change their hormonal patterns. And we could talk about that later. Women and men have entirely different risk patterns and stratifications of what they're going to hurt over time. And perhaps we can lead into that through another conversation, but it starts in your 20s. You're exactly right. And there's a huge push now, whether you look at Instagram, Twitter, all the social media outputs, all these influencers and people talking about how inflammation affects the body. Even that came out recently with RFK, all the things that are, you know, humans are putting into their bodies that in America, which are not allowed in Europe. So it starts with what we're doing to ourselves. And then from that, obviously, we can extrapolate that into what we're doing on the field.
What are some of like the hot spots though? What are the things that like, you know, if you're 25 and you're a fairly active person, man or woman, what should you really be wary of? Is it like your ACL? Is it like
so it's a lot of
your
things.
Shoulder?
The most important thing is balance, I think.
Okay.
Right? Your muscle balance. Guys in particular, I mean, I was 21 at one point in my life. You know, we have mirror muscles, right? We want our biceps to look good. We want our chest to look relatively good, but you know, we're going to neglect our back.
Just at 21 though, right? We don't have to, not our whole life.
No, I'm married with 2 kids now. I care less.
Good.
But, you know, at this, you have to think about balance, right? So if you only focus on one part of your body and you neglect the other parts of your body, then that's going to predispose you for an injury, right? So if you focus on your quads and don't touch your hamstrings, then you might potentially get an ACL tear or a hamstring rupture. If you focus on your chest and never really look at your back, then you could potentially have a back issue or a latissimus issue or perhaps even a neck issue. So the whole concept of the kinetic chain from top to bottom, core to floor or core upward, what have you, that really imparts a big influence on what's going to happen to our bodies long term. So strength is huge. Stretching also very important, warming up appropriately. But strength as we age is critical. If we're not doing that, then we're going to let our bodies really start breaking down.
Talk to me about stretching. I feel like stretching can be controversial and it's a pretty loose word, right? Like I can like kind of go down and be like, yep, I'm good. Yeah. Like what are we doing? Like what are the most effective stretches?
So stretching is good. It's not going to prevent every injury out there, right? I think a lot of injuries happen because of strength imbalances, or perhaps you're not up to your potential when you're out there playing. You take a skier, for example, maybe not you because you're a professional, but if you have your everyday Joe or everyday Jennifer out there who is skiing 8 hours in Killington they're exhausted by their last run and their muscles can't protect themselves at that point, right?
I call it lunch legs.
Is
Lunch
Jennifer
legs.
the female like equivalent of your everyday Joe? I've never heard that.
I don't know.
I like that, actually.
I like it.
I thought it was pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's good.
I thought I could have done better, I think.
No, I think it's good. We'll cut it in post. We'll cut it in post.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I call it lunch legs. I'm like, I can't ski after lunch because I'm like all wobbly. And like, I guarantee you I will injure myself.
Yeah, that's when it happens more often than not. I mean, I see a lot of patients with ACL tears in the office. You ask them, when did this happen? Oh, it happened at the end of the day. Oh, I wanted to get 1 or 2 more runs in before the day was over, okay, before I went home. So these are all things to be cognizant of. Your body's telling you to slow it down. Perhaps don't do that black diamond at the end of the day. Shift to a green or the bunny slopes.
Right.
Or just have a
or the
cocktail.
bar.
Yeah.
Or the bar. That's perfectly valid
You and I
choice.
are on the same page.
Yeah. So, all right. So back to the elite athletes. So, Ali, you're late in your career. Your body has seen some stuff. Like you have been through some stuff. You've torn your ACL, you've torn your MCL, you broke your fibula, you've had lots of a lot of concussions. Do you remember, I'm really big on remembering the moment. Do you remember the moment when like my body can't do what it used to do? Was there a thing when you're like, this isn't happening anymore?
Yeah, my last couple of years. Honestly.
Most of the 2010s.
Yes. I tried to make it to 40, and my calves started to break down, and my calves are the biggest muscles I have outside of my quads, and I was like known for having big calves and strong calves my whole career, and I never had an issue until my last season. It was wild, and so my body started to tell me, okay, this is, and it's not that I wasn't doing enough,
Yeah, like I'm sure you had
prehab,
because I'm sure you adapted
activation.
all the activation, all the prehab, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, all the nutrition, like all the sleep, all the things. Like I made sure my last year, because I announced I was retiring at the beginning of the year, so I could just like enjoy it, but also focus and make sure that I did everything right so that it would be a successful one. And yeah, my calves just started to break down, and I would get little tears, grade 1 tears in my soleus, and it just was really uncomfortable. And I was questioning, like, what am I not doing right? Because this has never happened before. And then my lower back, but you had mentioned, everything from core to floor, like everything is connected. So, my core is not strong at all. Like ever.
Okay.
And so that's obviously why my back and my hamstrings struggle. And there's also like sacrum issues here and there. But it's just like I started to feel more tired, and that my muscles weren't as strong. And
I'm sure you had access to world-class healthcare, to trainers and
everything.
all. And what was their answer? Like when you were like, what am I doing wrong? What more can I do? What was the answer?
Well, they were almost like do a little less, because in the gym, we're going to treat you a little bit different than, maybe do less weight, more reps. Maybe instead of this exercise, let's adjust and do this exercise. Maybe let's focus more on your core and your back than, anything else. And then I just stopped. I limited the calf raises with the weighted calf raises that I was doing before a pregame match, which just like wasn't ideal. So I kind of limited that. And I understood my body a little bit more as the year went on, but they allowed me to take more breaks. They allowed me to rest during training sessions and have maybe 2 days off rather than just 1 day off. So they really were lenient with me and just gave me the ability to decide, okay, like just listen to your body and let us know.
Well, and like Dr. Alaia said, this happens naturally, right? Like your muscles degrade over time. You shed muscle mass. Do they become less flexible? Is that inherent in the aging process?
Yeah, you become more stiff. The flexibility definitely goes down over time. There's lots of studies to show that happens.
Yeah. Gus, what about you? Did you have an oh shit moment later on in your career when you're like, this is not what's going on here, body?
It's more so just like when I would take a hit, it would hurt so much worse than when I was young. And I feel like with a lot of our injuries, like definitely a lot of it is there's stuff you can do to try and prevent it, and like you make all the risks as calculated as possible, but like you're doing tricks and there's so many things that can go wrong, and sometimes you're just like taking bad slams and it's icy and it's firm. And I feel like when I was younger, I would bounce back pretty quickly. And as I get older, I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like I was hit by a truck. That's the only thing that's really changed. I actually feel like in terms of like my body and moving and everything, like I retired at the last Olympics and took like 3.5 years off. And I only just came back to it like, I don't know, a few months ago. And I feel stronger than I did before.
Really?
Yeah. And when I was doing it before, like the last Olympics, I had 2 pretty bad concussions, and I was really struggling with that in the lead up to the games. And so I was having like weird like vertigo symptoms, and like I would get like kind of lost in the air. I was getting nauseous if I was like physically exerting myself too much. Like I couldn't really push it at the gym. I couldn't really push it on hill. And so it like really halted my training, and it just like wasn't really the Olympics that I had been hoping for. And it was also like my last one. And so it was just kind of like,
there's the mental health pressure too,
yeah,
right?
it was a little bittersweet. Some of those symptoms that I was having, like 6 months after the games, 9 months after the games, were completely gone. Now I'm not having them. I haven't hit my head again, knock on wood. But in terms of like the rest of my body, my legs and my core and everything, I feel stronger than I was then. So
amazing.
Yeah.
So Dr. Alaia, you mentioned earlier that men's and women's bodies change differently as they get older. These guys are still extremely young. I want to preface that. But as you get older, as you age into your body and it starts to change, how should men and women be thinking about this differently as far as what's happening?
Yeah, so I think that what happens to our bones as we get older is that they degenerate over time, right? The structural quality is going to diminish. You're going to become, in some way, shape, or form, osteoporotic, where the mechanical structure of your bone is simply not as strong as it was in the past. So you think about that, number one. Women obviously are going to have a lot higher chance of developing osteoporosis because of what happens with their hormonal patterns after menopause. In terms of things, particularly for men, you have testosterone typically will go down over time. That can change muscle mass, that can change your performance, your anxiety levels, your willingness to compete. It can affect you mentally. For women, again, a lot of this is with menopause and what happens at that point in time. So as men get older, their Achilles tendon tends to break down a little bit more. So males have a much higher rate of having Achilles tendon rupture because the mechanical properties of that tendon changes over time. For women in particular, you've got ACL tears, as you've been through. Women happens about 4 to 8 more times than men. And that's for a variety of reasons, not just hormonal, but the way they land, the way they train, the way that their quadriceps versus hamstring strength ratio is. Lots of different reasons for that as well. And then when you start thinking about stress fractures, those happen very, very often in Olympic athletes, high-profile athletes, runners, military recruits, and military athletics. And that's much more common in women also. If you look at stress fractures over time, it's about 70% women, 75% women, 25% men. And a lot of that has to do with the structures of their bone as well as their hormonal profiles.
Mm-hmm. So how much of this is not preventable, but like, can people go through hormone replacement therapy and mitigate their chances of these things happening? Are there stretches and exercises they can integrate into their routines now to mitigate these? Like, how much control do we have over how much is happening?
So hormone replacement therapy is a little bit controversial, right? And I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I don't know too much about that. But whenever you administer a drug or a medication to somebody to hopefully circumnavigate around one problem, you might develop a new problem, right? So with everything you put in your bodies comes risk of something else, whether it's cancer risk or side effects, et cetera. So you want to be mindful of that. So,
and work with a doctor.
Exactly.
Maybe, hopefully at NYU Langone Health, but maybe, whatever you have access to.
Yeah, so speak to your primary care physician, speak to your sports therapist, speak to whoever you have access to, and learn a little bit more about that, endocrinologists, et cetera. In terms of other things to prevent this, I think you had mentioned it before, more reps, less weight, all right? And men in particular, they tear their distal biceps tendon a lot more than women. They tear their pectoralis a lot more than women. So more reps, less weight. Don't force your body to go through more stress than it can tolerate, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to see me in my office. I'm going to tell you should have something fixed, which is obviously the last thing that somebody would want.
Right.
I would want them for me to fix it, but that's separate. But listening to your bodies and understanding that we're not invincible. There's a reason why 45-year-old men and women are not playing in the NFL and the NBA, because things happen to our bodies as we age. We're obviously trying to navigate through that so that people can play longer. But the sad reality of the matter is that we're not able to.
Right. Are there tests or things that you can undergo either at home or in a physical therapist's office or a physician's office where they can sort of like test your flexibility, measure it in a way that can help you sort of know if you're susceptible to these types of injuries?
So that's a really good question. And again, that's a little bit controversial. We have functional movement screens. I don't know if you've ever heard of the FMS testing, but it's like a 21-point scale.
And is that a Y test too? Is that the same as a Y test?
It's a little bit different.
Okay.
But that's graded on 7 different parameters. I forget what each one is, but if you score less than a 14, then theoretically you have a higher risk of damaging a muscle, a tendon, getting injured, et cetera. But there's also schools of thought saying that that doesn't work either. So no matter what we have, you're also going to have a separate faction of people saying, well, I don't really know if that works either. So it's a little bit controversial in terms of whether or not that's actually accurate.
But the answer can't be stop doing the stuff you love to do, right? So, and I don't want to be 55 and get an ACL repairment surgery. So like, how can any of us sort of go into this area of our lives and this stage of our lives as best prepared as we can to prevent these types of injuries?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I mean, my role as an orthopedic surgeon is to try and put people back out there doing the things that they love to do, whether it be ski or soccer, football, fencing, or just trying to run a mile without pain. So for us, we never want to tell somebody to stop what they're doing. We want them to continue what they're doing. They might have to change the way in which they're doing it to avoid injury. Instead of running 5 miles a day, 7 times a week, run 3 miles a day, twice a week, and cross train. Include some exercise work on a bike or an elliptical or swim or yoga or Pilates. There's a million things that we can do to cross train so that we're not constantly stressing the same joints and the same muscles. And that will certainly help people mitigate injury, or at least avoid it to the most that they can do and maximize functional capacity. So number 1, cross training. Number 2, as we said multiple times, is listening to your body. If you feel as though something's going to happen, like you do with your hamstring, slow it down.
Well, what about like my clicking knee? Not to get back to me.
My knee clicks too.
You're okay. So all right. So it's all about clicking knees.
Clicking knees.
Should we worry about it?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's
Absolutely not.
news you can use. We're
Things
done here.
click all the time, whether it's your shoulders, your hips, your knees.
It's just like an air pop, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, or it could.
Every step.
Or no. Or yeah.
My knee
Yeah.
sounds like if you're twisting a can.
Oh, it's a grind maybe.
Might be a little bit different. You and I might need to talk after
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
No, clicking is totally normal. That's
Yeah.
usually just air pockets in the knee, or maybe a little bit of kinematic issues with your kneecap. But we don't worry about clicking unless there's pain.
Yeah.
If there's pain, there's swelling, there's mechanical symptoms, there's inability to perform, then we get a little bit worried. But I mean, I see it all the time. Patients come into the office, be like, "Oh, I have no problems, but my knees click. I'm really worried. Am I okay?" Yes,
Right.
you're okay. Call me when you need me.
Right. Gus, you were saying you feel great. You're super strong. Ali, you were saying earlier, everything hurts all the time.
Well, I'm in Pilates now. You mentioned Pilates
Okay.
and yoga. And
Pilates
that's
is
something-
huge.
I wish I would
Yeah.
have done that at the very beginning.
Right.
I think like Ryan Giggs, who used to play for Men United, a retired, incredible player. He said he did yoga 3 times a week, and that's why he lasted so long in the league. And I should have taken that advice a long time ago. But I love Pilates. I love yoga, especially for those reasons, because it's like hidden fitness within stretching. And
Yeah. And
activating
it's
the
really
body
all about the core,
and the core. And
which,
so-
as discussed, is really your
Yes, my
weak.
weakness.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
So that's been helpful.
Yeah. So, but as far as like working with everyday pains, as we get older, stuff's going to hurt, right? How should we think about those everyday aches and pains? Should we be taking pain relievers whenever it starts to hurt? Should we be icing? Should we do contrast therapy? Like, how should a normal person navigate the everyday aches and pains of our bodies getting older?
Well, I think there's a difference between everyday aches and pains and true pain, meaning something that limits your ability to do what you want to do. So we always say, at least in our office, that the difference between discomfort and pain is that a lot of times you can play through discomfort, but you can't really play through pain. So the first thing we tell people is if you're worried about a symptom, go see your physician. All right, get an evaluation, make sure that everything is okay. And from that, you can sort of extrapolate some sort of fitness plan or functional plan moving forward to hopefully get rid of these pains, whether it be physical therapy, an anti-inflammatory, occasionally a strength program where you're targeting different muscles that perhaps you weren't targeting before, like you had mentioned, your core. A lot of times knee pain is because of core weakness. If you're lunging and you don't have good gluteal strength and your core is not really firing and engaging, you're going to load all that pressure, which is 6 times more than your body weight, through the front of your knees. And people, they never realize it. They come into the office, you test their core, and next thing you know, they're on the ground because they've got no functional strength there. And you say, okay, well, your x-rays are normal, your MRI is normal, you're having pain because your core is not doing what it's supposed to do. You're not engaging it. So you need to learn it. And it's hard to learn to function muscle. It's hard to learn how to engage muscles if you've never really thought about it. Trying to establish the connection between your mind and a certain muscle can be difficult at times.
That's like Pilates. That's like for me what Pilates is like the micro movements and really like thinking really intentionally about moving like one little thing, one minor movement.
Yeah, no, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think that everyday pain, going back to what you're saying, is very, very normal for people that are getting older. I mean, you've had injuries. I've got one hip is arthritic and one shoulder has a labrum tear. And I just kind of try and change my activities in terms of how I'm lifting, how I'm working out, to maybe have a little less pain, have a little less discomfort, not have pain when I'm sleeping on my shoulder at night, which happens. I'm 43 and I have to roll onto my right shoulder 3 times a night. I know that nothing's really wrong in there. I don't need surgery, but again, it's just listening to your body and changing the way you're behaving to try and avoid this.
That's a devastating thing too. Like when I had a lower back issue earlier this year and I was getting all these x-rays and the physician was like, well, maybe like you just don't lift as heavy anymore. And like, maybe you just don't go to the gym. And I understand what he was saying, but it's also like, that's it? That's the advice? I mean, has anyone had like PRP injections? Has anyone had like any like of those next gen? Did they work? Did you like them?
Yeah.
Yeah? They did the trick? Yeah, super painful.
Yeah, it did the trick.
What are you excited about as far as that level of intervention?
Well, I think that's probably the next frontier. And I was thinking about this and I was hoping you would bring it up. Is the realm of biologics, right? Using our own biological, I guess, acumen to our advantage, right? And there's lots of different ways to do it. PRP is platelet-rich plasma. I don't know how much you know about PRP, but we're essentially taking blood out of your system, harvesting the platelets through there. We can put all your cells in a centrifuge, and by weight, we can actually get the platelets out of there and inject those cells into an area of concern, whether it's a tendon, a muscle, a joint, and you're harnessing the power of your own biologics to really reduce the inflammation and perhaps have some sort of regenerative potential inside that part of your body. Perhaps, because the data is certainly very variable, depends on what system you use, how much blood you draw, et cetera. Lots of things can go into it, but it's certainly something that we're looking at, and we're very, very, very optimistic about what's going to happen in the future, right? We're going to refine that. The other thing is stem cells, right? And I say stem cells with one of these quotes because, first of all, stem cells are not really legal in the United States. We're not allowed to take cells from your body, manipulate them into a certain cell line, and then try and grow a certain cell line from that. We're actually not allowed to do that. In the United States, whenever we say stem cells, we usually mean harvesting a little bit of bone marrow from your iliac crest, or there are other off-the-shelf stem cells like amniotic cells or something like that. But they're not going to be able to grow into a cell line, but perhaps they have some hidden regenerative potential. And by refining that long-term and studying it and seeing what happens from bench to bedside, maybe we can advance this a little bit so people aren't getting arthritic when they're 60. Draw it out another 15 years because of whatever we're injecting into the knee. So perhaps your ACL tear, which you've done really well from, a lot of people don't. A lot of people develop osteoarthritis when they're 30, 40 years old because of meniscus injuries, cartilage injuries. How can we take someone like you and not have you in pain when you're 60? And we think that this regenerative medicine potential is there. We just have to refine it quite a bit.
Right. So the three of us are in our 40s. Gus, you're a child and you had more trauma than all of us combined. How should we be waking up and approaching this from just like a lived experience? Like, are there supplements we should be doing? Are there specific stretches or exercise movements that we should all be doing? What are the sort of North Stars that folks in their 40s, their 50s, even their 60s should really be doing as far as best practices to keep their body intact?
You mentioned it when you asked your question. What do we do when we wake up? Well, the first thing is what you do before you wake up is you sleep. All right. As we get older, we should be getting more sleep to hopefully prevent this stuff from happening. Let your body heal.
What
right?
if you have kids?
Oh, I got 2 kids, and for heck or high water, you teach them how to sleep so you can sleep. You've been through it. I've been through it. You have kids?
I sure do.
Yeah. You have children?
No.
Yeah. Well, if and when those days come, then you'll go through the same.
I have a dog, and she's pretty down to sleep.
See that? Your dog knows what's up. Yeah. But sleep, if you could sleep 7-8 hours a night, first of all, that's going to substantially improve your quality of life, your mental clarity, as well as your physical ability. Okay. Then after that, get up. You can stretch. A lot of people are doing ice baths now or sauna treatments, just designed to either reduce inflammation or let your muscles kind of stretch out a little bit.
And do you like hot and cold therapy?
I think it's great. I mean, I think if you have the physical means to do it, I certainly see no problems with doing it. And a lot of people are swearing by this at this point in time. So if it's working, don't stop a good thing.
Do you guys either do ice plunges? You strike me as an ice plunger.
Yeah, I do.
Do you like it?
It's been so hot in New York. I've been taking like exclusively cold showers.
Okay.
But it's good for you.
Yeah.
Also.
What about you? Do you do the ice? Do you do
Yeah,
ice?
I did a lot in my career. I lean more so towards the hot.
Sure.
But I really valued that.
I like them both. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the back and forth is what really
That is, I feel like that's where you get the benefit.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, so if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, is there any difference if you're getting like from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. versus 1 a.m. till 9 a.m.? There is a benefit to going to bed
asking
earlier,
for a friend, right?
I just am curious.
There's a benefit to having a routine. The body does not like switching up the routine. So if you're 1 a.m. to 9 a.m., there's probably very little difference that compared to 8 p.m. to, I guess, 6 a.m. Your body uses circadian rhythms also to its advantage, right? When you get sunlight, that helps your body kind of reestablish a flow. All right. And there's some science to prove that. But I don't think, to your question, that there's that much of a difference.
My boyfriend always is trying to get me to go to bed earlier. And he's like, it's more important to have the 8 hours starting earlier. And I was like, I don't think that's a thing. But I just wanted you to back me up on that. So I appreciate it.
Consider yourself backed up.
Yeah. So maybe some contrast therapy after you wake up after your solid 8 hours of sleep. What else? Any specific foods or food groups?
Right, so food is another thing that's hot right now. So you want to think about anti-inflammatory foods. So your seed oils are getting a big bad rap lately. So your canola oil, your soybean oil, et cetera, those have pro-inflammatory molecules in them that may potentially make you feel a little bit worse.
Right.
A big steak before dinner. I have a big steak dinner at age 43. The next day I'm shot, regardless of whether I have a glass of wine or not. You know, you get meat sweats during the middle of the night. The next morning, you're just not functioning the way you want to.
Right.
Okay. And it's because our body cannot metabolize it the way we want to.
Right.
Okay. So all these pro-inflammatory things that we're ingesting into our body definitely play a role. So you want to eat clean, more meals a day, but less food for each meal, so your body keeps up that constant metabolism. And just thinking about those things will impact you. I always feel much better the next day when I've eaten clean and not had a big meal right before going to bed.
I kind of adjust though when I'm on my menstrual cycle that I don't mind eating meat because I feel like that iron is so super important. So I adjust. I don't know, maybe females, feel opposite of, eating steak because during that week period, because I think it's important to kind of refuel. And I don't know. I tend to eat more steak during that week than any other week of the
I'm 100% going to take your word for that.
Okay.
But it makes sense because it's like you were saying before, like introducing something into the equation, like it has other consequences, right? And if that helps Ali sleep, if that makes her feel strong, like that's all for the good, right?
Exactly.
I just wanted to touch on this a little bit and bring it back to when I was answering about getting older, my body breaking down. But I feel like travel was so key and how it impacted my body because we would have 3 games in 1 week and they would be away games. And so we'd have to fly, a day before the game, play the 90-minute game, get on the plane the next day, play the Wednesday night game, 90 minutes. And they would try to sit, some of, certain players out. But if you want to win, it's a business, right?
Yeah.
So you have to play your best players and, you're having to just really strain your body.
There's no recovery.
There's no recovery. And then you're flying to the next game.
You're dehydrated.
So I think travel was really difficult because our country is huge, right? It's not like, we live in a smaller country where you could just bop around. Here you're going, 6 hours plus across the country.
Well, and I think it speaks to what we were saying before about what if you have kids? Like all of this sounds great in like a snow globe world, right? But we're all dealing with daily stressors all the time. Mm-hmm. So Gus has had some issues with his hips over the years. You had a hematoma?
I was about to say, have I?
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah.
Yes. I do my research.
Yeah.
Sort of. As we get older, and between 300,000 and 400,000 people getting hip replacements every year, prevalence of arthritis, just the stiffness that comes with aging. How much are you seeing that increase in both your practice and in just sort of observing the world?
First and foremost, people tend to be more active now than what they were 30 or 40 years ago. So 50 is like the new 30. So people are very, very active in increasing age, your quote unquote aging athletes. I think that we're seeing an increase in osteoarthritis, which is expected. We see that women tend to be arthritic earlier than men, and then it kind of catches up at the end around like age 70, and a lot of that has to do with menopause and the hormonal changes that people get. So it's very common for women to come in with arthritic hips, arthritic knees, and you have to tell them a lot more than tell men to either, number one, try and cut some weight down. For every pound of pressure that we have on our bodies, we're putting about 6 times that weight through our knees with certain activities. So, for every pound you cut off, you tell them that's 6 pounds of weight. So that goes a long way. I think low impact exercise for patients that are prone to getting arthritis, like your post ACL patient or your post hip labor and reconstruction patient, where you're not only trying to get them back onto the field, but also preserve the joint long term, because you know that even that surgery is not perfect. So low impact activities when the professional career or the collegiate career ends, perhaps trending more towards lower impact activities is going to be helpful. Your collagen that you spoke of, some people swear by it, and I'm a big believer in the placebo effect. I mean, if you think something is working for you and your pain is going away and your performance levels are going up, and then by all means continue with that trend, as long as you're not doing anything harmful to your body. I think that's fine. But you are right. The prevalence is going up. Our population is increasing year by year. We're only going to see more of these as time goes on. So knowing your body, knowing the pathology that you have in your body, knowing that if you are arthritic, now's the time to maybe just change a little bit, modify something that so you're still happy, still active, and have less pain. Because if you have less pain, then your body is going to be able to do more things. You're not going to have diabetes. You're not going to have those metabolic crises, and you're not going to get overweight. So a lot of it comes down to conversations with your physicians, but at the same time, modification is everything.
So Gus has won an Olympic medal. Ali has been on two World Cup titles, not just one, two World Cup titles, but they're also like babies, right? Like they've got their entire lives in front of them. What would each of you still like to accomplish physically? That whether it's like run a marathon, climb a mountain, like you've already done these amazing physical achievements. What's on your bucket list to still do?
2 World Cups.
You can do it. I support you.
You go.
I would love to climb a mountain. You said that, but like Mount Kilimanjaro, I would love to do that. I don't know if I'd survive, so I'm a little scared. But something of that extent, like I would love to do that.
That's a big one.
And I also would love to run a marathon. I think only I could do a half. But I think that would be such an incredible achievement because, I mean, running was just a part of the sport. It wasn't my favorite part of it.
And it wasn't like the thing. It was part of the thing.
You had to do it in order to win and be successful and have fun. But I didn't really enjoy it towards the end as much. And I think running a marathon would be, I would think it would be super rewarding for me because of that.
Why do you think you could only do half?
I don't know. I feel like 26 miles feels like a lot. Like
Come on, you guys. That's a lot.
Like a mile test, right, in preseason. I'd be like, I'm going to run a mile today. Oh, my gosh. And I can imagine being on like mile 15. I mean, that would be insane.
It's very different, like short bursts of sprinting versus like consistent long running.
Yeah. And the impact it has on your body, right? Yeah. Like as far as like what's stopping you from making it, it's not necessarily aches and pains. It's just exhaustion.
Even when I'm done skiing, I still want to do things to push myself and push my body. And like this year I did a charity bike ride, the AIDS Life Cycle, which I've done before, but it's like from San Francisco to LA, it's like 600 miles on a bike. And it's pretty hard. And it was actually the last year that they're doing that specific ride from San Francisco to LA.
And did you train for it? Did you like?
No, which was a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not even like Peloton?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing.
All right. Well,
and
I mean,
I didn't really the time I did it before in 2019. But I think I was just like younger. I don't know. Like speaking of the body, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm actually not feeling as strong as I was because I did the AIDS Life Cycle in 2019, and it was hard. But or maybe I just like have blacked it out. But this year I was like, oh my God, this is so awful.
Did you like stretch before? Did you do any of the things that Dr. Alaia said?
Every time we were at a rest stop too, like people would come up and they'd be like, how amazing is today, huh? And I would be like, this is the worst day of my life.
Like when's lunch?
I'm just like trying to get it done.
What parts of your body did you like actively hurt? Like did your hip flexors hurt? Did your butt hurt?
My butt, yes, definitely. Like from being in the seat on the saddle, that like killed. But really my knees.
Yeah.
Like crunchy soda can knee that you're gonna fix.
And did you like do any like rehab? Did you or just like went and like had a drink at the finish line and that was it?
I had a drink at the finish line.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we got it.
Some collagen.
That's collagen. Thank you all so much for being here. I loved hearing your stories and it's so inspiring. Dr. Alaia, thanks so much for all your insights. And I can't wait to see the work that you and your colleagues at NYU Langone Health are going to get up to. I'm going to go take like an ice bath or something. Like we'll see what the afternoon brings.
I'm not.
You're not. You're going home.